So I've talked about Need for Speed 2017 an awful lot on this channel. I've talked about things I want to see in the next game, things I think should be improved, but I've not talked about my biggest worries. Also, shout out to any of you OG boys who know this original room. Don't worry, it's only for 2 videos. Also apologise if there's a bit of an echo in here. I've only just realised as I've raised my voice there is a bit of an echo, so I do apologise. But anyway, back on topic, I do have worries for the next game. I'm not as worried as a lot of people are. I still think Ghost are going to make an amazing game, I'm convinced of that. But there are a few things which definitely need to be tweaked and improved for this game to become, you know, for this game to achieve the potential this game can achieve. I'm going to discuss a few of those things in this video. Like I said, I don't have anywhere near as much problems as half of the Need for Speed subreddit do, but there's definitely issues that need to be solved from the next game. So let's go ahead and do this. Right, number 1, and I think this is the most important thing out of anything in the next game, that is the netcode. If you don't know what the netcode is, essentially, the best way I can explain it, well, the best way I can explain the problem with the netcode is, I think at least I assume it's the netcode. Essentially, it's when you're going up against 2 cars, on your screen it looks like you haven't hit him, on his screen it looks like he does, clipping issues, that's all to do with the netcode. And the netcode in the last game was appalling. It made the game unplayable at some points. I don't think the physics made the game unplayable, but the netcode definitely. Now, do I think the physics need tweaking and changing? Yes, but I'll talk about that in a minute, because I need to finish about my point about the netcode first. It was awful. They need to rework that. They need to, I'm not sure if it's because of frostbite, or if it's, well, you know, I'm not sure what the problem is. I'm not a game dev, I don't know. But whatever the issue was with frostbite, it needs to be solved. I have no doubt they're going to do this, to be honest, because if you don't fix the netcode, you can't have a multiplayer in that game. I'm convinced if they, you know, if they put loads of effort into the multiplayer in the next Need for Speed, if they go ahead, put pink slips, put wages in the next game, it doesn't matter if the netcode's shit, because I'm not playing it. And I can assume that's probably going to be a lot of your guys' opinions as well. If you can't race online, if you are clipping into everyone online, you're probably not going to play the online. That, for me, was my biggest issue with Need for Speed 2015, was the netcode and the clipping and, you know, the glitching out, you know, going into a wall even though no one hit me on someone else's screen. That was my biggest issue with the last game. Yes, the physics were below par. Yes, there was a few issues with the last game, but the netcode, hands down, was the worst. So that's my number 1 biggest kind of worry. I do think they're going to fix it. I think it's one of those things, like I said, if they don't fix it, you can't have a multiplayer in it. So I think for sure they will fix it. It's definitely something they will fix. But, you know, it's still in the back of my head. It's one of those worries. It's one of my main issues with the last game. So I'd be stupid not to include it in this little mini list. The next thing we're going to go ahead and talk about is the physics. Now, again, this didn't make the game unplayable for me. I know for a lot of people, this made the game unplayable for them. They couldn't really do anything with the physics, and that's fair enough. I will say, I think the master slider didn't help the situation. Unless you had a pretty good tune, you know, it was going to be relatively hard to play the game. But for me, that was never really an issue, because I played the game pretty hard, so I always had a good set of cards I could always go back to. But the physics do need to be solved, mainly just making it feel like the cars aren't magnets. I've said this time and time again, making sure that the cars don't feel like when they're going around towards the ground, they're just coming in like a nuke, because that's ridiculous. You know, making so it doesn't feel like I'm racing with like bumper cars, basically, is the main thing. I think they can solve this. I think making it kind of feel more black box-y. I don't want them to rip and copy black box because, you know, I've already talked about this. I don't want the game to feel like an underground game. I want it to feel brand new, fresh, but at the same time, you know, taking a few hints from the older games wouldn't be bad. And I think especially with the physics, especially the grip physics, you know, taking a hint from an underground book would not be a bad thing in the slightest. I think also with the drift physics and making them feel less Criterion-y, I still felt Need for Speed 2015 was a bit too Criterion-y. That's definitely a worry I have, is that the next game is still going to feel Criterion-y. I remember ages and ages and ages ago when they first announced they were going to take a break and miss out on Need for Speed 2014. I tweeted Ghost Games and I said, do you plan to ditch the Criterion drifting in the next game? And they replied with me, I'm not going to be able to get the tweet up because it's gone now, but they replied with something across the lines of, we're Ghost, not Criterion. And in the last game, it was Criterion drifting. So, I mean, I don't know what that means, but like, you know, you were wrong. Yeah, so the physics for sure need to be solved. Again, I think little tweaks would solve it, to be honest. I don't think it's that big of an issue. I feel like the magnet problem and, you know, all those types of problems can be solved relatively easily. I felt like the Hot Rod had a completely different handling system for some reason. That car felt so unique compared to everything else, and a few other cars actually felt really different. So I'm hoping that if that is the case, that's kind of what they go for, because again, it felt a lot different to some of the other cars. Number 3, and this is one of the things, it's on a lesser degree to the last two I mentioned. The last two are core gameplay mechanics. This one isn't really core, but it's still something I kind of worry for, because it's so cool to see in a Need for Speed game. And it kind of includes the multiplayer. The multiplayer is one big thing, but this for sure, I want to see pink slips and wages in the game, and I don't think it's going to happen. The game is rated T for teen. T. Which means it's very possible we could see pink slips and wages in the next game. I'm pretty sure gambling, as long as it's not using in real life money, you can put it in a T for teen game. Or a 12 over here in the UK, or wherever you go, wherever you live. But I don't think it's going to happen. I've just got a gut feeling I don't think it's going to happen. I feel like these types of high-risk multiplayer modes, we're long gone past that now. I feel like I just couldn't see it. I have worries that the multiplayer is going to be lacking. I have worries that it's only just going to be sprint, drift, open lobbies, and that's it. You know, I want to see cops and robbers. I want to see infected. I want to see king. I want to see, I don't know, wages and pink slips, and, you know, being able to place bets on races before you go in, like Juiced and Midnight Club, and, you know, GTA does it. That's what I want to see. I think, to me, that's something which is really, really cool. Whether we're going to get it or not, I don't know. Again, it's one of those things that I feel like in the age of Need for Speed, we might be long past it now. Again, it's a worry in the back of my head. I want it to be a thing, but whether it is a thing, I can't predict that, sadly, but hopefully it is. And this leads me on to my whole multiplayer, you know, bit of a rant really, and progression. Progression in the last game was a bit too easy. For hardcore people like me and, you know, a lot of you guys watching this, I'm sure you can agree that the multiplayer in the last game was just way too easy. You know, you upgraded too fast, and everything overall was just way too fast. Especially for multiplayer progression, I want that to be a lot slower. Now, I'm not talking on like the crew level, I'm not talking on GTA level, but I'm talking, you know, just making it a tad bit harder. You know, I feel like with especially the current day racing games, minus the crew, they're all really easy to progress, and I just don't want that anymore. You know, multiplayer especially, when you get into some of those higher ranks, I want it to take ages till I upgrade another level. And I want there to be rewards as well. Maybe, because I watched Niner's video about this yesterday, maybe not like body kits and stuff, because I feel like we're going to be like, not scarce of it, but there's already going to be limited options for body kits as it is. So maybe just putting like maybe vanity plates, or, you know, a special decal, or, you know, something across those lines. Maybe even like a headlight cover or something like that. You know, little stuff, not big stuff. That would be really cool. Maybe even like a call sign, maybe like a Call of Duty call sign. Like a Call of Duty prestige mode type of system would be really, really cool in the game. You know, where, you know, you have a level and then you just go up. That would be really cool. And then maybe when you get to like 10th prestige or prestige master, you get an M3 GTR. That would be really cool, like with the original sounds and stuff. Again, the likelihood of that happening is probably really low, but I can dream. These are all things that I've talked about in multiplayer wishlist videos, but yeah, I have doubts about the multiplayer. I don't think the multiplayer is going to be as robust as it needs to. Cops and Robbers has a place in Need for Speed. I'm not talking Pursuit Tech. I'm not talking like, you know, Carrera GTs versus 911s. That's not what I'm talking about. I want Crown Vics versus 370s. Maybe you have like 3 classes of cars in the game. You've got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1s is your Civics, tier 2s are like your Lotus Evoras, and tier 3s are like your Huayras. And, you know, that's how it works. I mean, that's something for Ghost that Ghost needs to solve. But, you know, multiplayer is definitely a worry of mine. I want to see a lobby system. There's so many things I could go on about. I feel like there needs to be a robust multiplayer system, and I don't just want to see the same modes that I've played in Horizon and the Crew. There needs to be new modes, because again, I've done that before. You know, I've played those modes before, as where Cops and Robbers would feel fresh because we haven't seen it in so long, and the Crew did not execute it as good as it could have. So yeah, multiplayer for sure is a big issue. And that's pretty much it. I've got a few other things, but, you know, they're kind of minute, they're not on a big level. What do you guys worry about for the next game? You know, obviously, we all have our worries. You know, AI is a big one, cop AI especially. I feel like they're kind of solving that. They kind of said that in the Under the Hood article. They said the police chases are going to be a huge thing for the next game. So that basically means they couldn't leave it the way it was. Otherwise, that's just going to be stupid. Anyway, let me know what problems you think is going to be with the next game. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Don't think AI and cop AI is going to be a thing though, just because they said it in Under the Hood. Anyway, that's it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to go ahead and hit the like, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. You guys have been awesome. Stay safe and peace.